Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I said, good morning. Again, I forget that it's different times around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day to you all. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope it was good. I hope it will be good. I hope it continues to be good. I've shared with you already the class notes in the chat. Can you find that link? If you find that link, you can open up the class notes, which we'll be working on today. If you are on your phone, go ahead and follow along. Pretty soon behind me, you will see the lesson, the reading, the exercises, the everything. We're going to do another reading this morning. I felt that last time the reading went so well that we might as well do it again. I think they're fun. I think reading is essential. I think you always have to read. I know for many students it's their least favorite thing to do because it can be a little boring. However, you must, if you want to learn a language, and a lot of you are already in the process of learning a language, reading becomes so important. You are exposed to so much new vocabulary. You are exposed to so much examples of grammar. You are exposed to culture. You are exposed to new information. And it doesn't matter what language it is in, new information is always important. So reading is essential in any language, in all languages, reading is essential. I read all the time. As a matter of fact, right here, right next to my side, I have my book bag. And yes, I have a book. Oh, look at that. It's green, so it matches the background. That's crazy. It's actually green, but it looks blue. I always carry a book when I have time to read on the bus or sitting in a cafe. I always pull out a book and start reading. It is, even though English is my one language, my primary language, my mother tongue, I still have to read. If I want to continue to improve my English, to make sure my English does not get worse, I have to continue to read. So, I'm doing well. Thank you. It's good to see everybody here. Oh, you want to see the you want to see the book bag? Sure, no problem. This is my book bag. It's a leather satchel type book bag. My phone is in there. I got papers and books in there. Yeah, I got a water bottle. Got a water bottle in there because it's important to hydrate. It's important to hydrate as well as read. Hydrate, of course, means keep your body full of water. Keep your body and your mind hydrated by feeding it water. But also in the morning, feed your body and mind coffee as well. Okay, let's get started. Enough about the book bag. Let's get started. I'm going to put the lesson behind me now. Do you want those notes here? Since some people are just joining, I will share the link one more time. And there is the link. And for those of you who are watching this video later, like it's not live anymore, you can always go back to YouTube and watch it later. And you're wondering, who is he talking to? Well, when we do these live classes, there's a chat window. There's a chat room. And there are students from around the world chatting in live time. So if you can make these live classes, you too can join the chat, in which you can ask me questions or you can talk to the other people. But if you're watching later, that's fine too. You're just kind of following along. But if you're ever like, who is that guy talking to? I am actually talking to real people. Okay. Hi, Alejandro. Good. I hope you've been well as well. I hope you've all been well as well. Okay, time for the lesson. Where am I? There I am. So there's the links, as always. On every class notes, I'll share the links. If you have a question, you can email Zach If you want to see information about these live classes, you can click on the live page. And if you want to see where I work, where the studios are housed, you can click on this link. You can friend me on Facebook here at this. And from time to time, when I have time at work, I will look on Facebook and I will have time from time to time to maybe start a chat. The chat will go very slowly because I'll maybe put a sentence in a day, but I will check from time to time and we can keep a chat going on Facebook as well. It's rolling. Oh, uh-oh. It's rolling. What does that mean? Your screen is moving? Maybe it's your mouse. Maybe it's your mouse. Okay. Today's reading is Unmarried Households the Norm. So let's talk about the vocabulary we will encounter in this reading. I'm going to make this bigger. Okay, let's look at this first one. In the title, we have this expression, the norm. The norm. What is the norm? The norm is something considered normal by a large group of people. So if we say unmarried households, the norm, we mean unmarried households. Unmarried, the state of being unmarried, people who are not married, is the norm, is considered normal. And households, of course, means, and that's another one of our words, households, a house and its occupants, the people who live in it, regarded as a unit. So a household is not just the house, it's also the people in it. So it includes everything. House, people in it, that's a household. Okay. Oh, you need that link again? Somebody, yeah, of course I'll share the link with you again. There's the link one more time for the class notes. Next word, despite. Without being affected by. So it's like if I said, I played soccer despite the rain, it means I was not affected by the rain. The soccer game, my soccer match, was not affected by the rain. So despite, without being affected by, you're going to ignore something. I played soccer despite the rain. Catastrophic, extremely unfortunate or unsuccessful, or it can mean causing great damage. The earthquake was catastrophic. My last score on my test will be catastrophic to my grade point average. So something that is unfortunate, unsuccessful, or very damaging. Catastrophic. Catastrophic begins with cat, like the animal. Catastrophic. Yeah, like disaster. That's good. Oh, what's that link for? Okay, the link I share in the chat room is for the class notes. When you open the class notes, you can see what I'm talking about in the background. Again, if you're on your phone and you can't access that link, just go ahead and look at, yeah, I'll point that way. Look at the background. Okay, we have a question already. Zayed, that's a good question. What's the difference between despite and although? And it's just kind of usage in a sentence. Although it was raining, I played soccer. I played soccer despite the rain. Despite the rain, I played soccer. I played soccer although it was raining. You can move those, you can move these words to the beginning of a sentence or to the middle of a sentence. The difference is with despite, you can only use a noun or a noun phrase. With although, you can use a complete clause. You can have a subject and verb. So they mean the same thing. However, how you use them in a sentence will change. Despite, we only use noun clauses. How about I put up an example? I played soccer, and I know most of you call it football, and you know in America, of course, we call it soccer, because our game of football, only two people can use their foot. So it's a different sport. Very strange. I don't know why we call it football. I played soccer despite the rain. So when you use despite, you can only use a noun phrase afterwards. And a noun phrase is like a gerund or a noun and all of its adjectives. It does not have a verb. It will not have a verb. Yeah, despite, like I don't care about it. Throw it away, ignore it. Like in spite of. Okay. Yeah, so things like that. Yeah, I think you have a good idea of what despite means. Let's look at the next word, dominate. And for this one, I don't mean take control of. In the reading, we will read it to mean the most important or conspicuous thing or person. So conspicuous is the most noticeable, the thing you see or hear. So the most important or conspicuous thing or person, the easiest thing to see, the most common thing. Good. Yes, Rosa, that's correct. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's not correct. Oh, okay. One more thing about despite, about the usage of despite. Okay, so Rosa, you wrote despite of the rain. I played soccer. Okay, if we use it like this, when you use the word despite, never put of in there. Despite and there's in spite of, you can't mix these. You either just use the word despite or the three words in spite of. You can't mix them up. You can never say despite of. You can never say in despite. You can never say spite of. In a sentence, they will appear just as a single word, despite, or as the three words in spite of. So we cannot include of. That's only for in spite of. And that's a common mistake among everybody who tries to use those words. Even some Americans make that mistake. They will try to put of with despite. It's just the word despite or the phrase in spite of. And these two are perfect synonyms, and both of them you can only use a noun phrase afterwards. Here's another good example. Another good example. You guys are doing well with using the vocabulary already. I love her despite her dad. Yes, sometimes we don't always get along with our spouse's parents or our boyfriend's or girlfriend's parents. I love her despite her dad. You don't have to love the parents. You only have to love the person. So good examples here. Okay, next one, headed, just meaning be in the leading position on, be the leader. I headed the meeting this afternoon, so I was the leader of the meeting. Coffee. I love coffee. All right. So you'll just have to, because it's my good morning, I have to have my coffee. Let's look at the next word, individualistic, independent and self-reliant. If you are individualistic, you can depend on yourself. You don't need anybody else for help. You don't want anybody else for help. You don't want help from anybody. You are individualistic. How to put this? You don't follow the same things everybody else does. You are what we would say, your own person. Individualistic. And I know a lot of you are self-studiers. You are watching these videos to improve your English. Nobody's forcing you to watch these videos. That's a very individualistic thing to do, to take studying upon yourself, to find resources by yourself. It's always good to be individualistic, especially if you're a student of something. Do as much as you can when you learn, when you study. As a student, don't be so reliant on teachers, on instructors, on schools, on textbooks, on websites, even though these are all excellent resources, and of course you can't have school without them, be individualistic and find additional means to study, to learn. Never stop. Always be individualistic. And I think you all are. Everybody here. Oh, you want, yeah, that's a good synonym, Mr. Singh. We can say self-dependent and dominate examples. Examples of dominate. How about this? Let's see. News of the election. All right, how about I just start with the election has dominated the news. The election has dominated the news. If I watch the news, the thing that I see is either most important right now or most conspicuous. What I see the most of is the election. And of course, we have an election in about a month here in the United States. So of course, the election is going to dominate the news. It's what everybody is thinking about. It's what everybody is interested in right now. So the election has dominated the news. It's the most important thing, and it's the thing that I see all the time. Yes, good. The internet has dominated our life. That is a very good, let's see, example. I'll put that one in there. The internet has dominated our life. Now this is the other meaning of dominate. And they're close in meaning. This is kind of the controlling. So dominate can also mean controlling. So yes, the internet is important, very conspicuous, but this has another meaning of controlling. I think the internet controls our lives to some extent. We now cannot live without it. We can't imagine living without the internet. I can't imagine living without the internet. One time, my internet was down for 2 weeks. My internet was down for 2 weeks. A repairman had to come out, and he couldn't come out for 2 weeks. So earlier this year, I was without the internet at home. I had it at work, but at home, I didn't have the internet. It was fantastic. It was great. I got so much done. I got so much reading done. I got so much writing done. Clean the house. It was fantastic. I can't tell you how great life is without the internet. And of course, when I got my internet back, I went back to my old habits of always checking the internet. Let's see. I am individualistic in my reading content. Good. Let's put that as an example. I am individualistic in my reading content. Yeah, it means you choose your own reading content. You don't rely on others to tell you what to read. That's good. Okay, we got to continue. I know there's a lot of great examples, but if we're going to actually get to the reading, we better go through this vocabulary pretty fast. So I'm going to go very quickly through this next set of vocabulary. Wedlock is just means married. The state of being married just means you're married. I am in wedlock means I am married. Indicated, just point out, show. Sponsored, provide funds for, support. Emphasis, special importance, value, or prominence given to something. Emphasis. Okay, I know I'm going fast, but these words will return. We'll work with these words very soon. Okay, so we're still on the prediction stage, stage 1 of reading. Based on the title of the reading and some of these vocabulary, we can start to predict. We can start to predict. So I'm going to ask you, what does household mean to you? We learned that word meaning a house and all the people inside of it. But if you were to use that word, what does it mean to you personally? Can you answer in the chat? What does household mean to you? And you gave me some great examples of other vocabulary. can you use household in a sentence? Can you give me example sentences using household? So a couple of questions I'm asking you here. What does household mean to you personally? And can you use it in a sentence? And I'll put some of your examples up here. So maybe household means the householder, the person who owns the house. So if you say householder, I would assume you mean the person who owns the house. What else is it? Yes, good. And of course, the definition meaning is household is a house with people. You have to have people in it for it to be a household. And I see a lot of examples coming in. Family, yes, household can also mean family or family members. Good. A social unit living together. That's a very fancy meaning. A social unit living together. And a social unit may extend beyond the family. So one guess, Milena, my neighborhood. Not really. I would say household is not really neighborhood. Neighborhood is a lot of households. So if I put that down, if I were to put down my neighborhood, that would mean a neighborhood is made of many households. Neighborhood is a collection of household units. Okay, now we get some, good. Now we get some example sentences. I used to live in a household. I used to live in a household. Good example sentence. What else? My household is small and beautiful. Yeah. So you can use it like a synonym for house. And if you say my household is small, it would also mean a small family. Maybe parents and one child, maybe just yourself. Good, Mr. Singh. This is a good example sentence. I'm not into doing household chores. No, me neither. I'm not a big fan of chores either. How about this? And I'm going to change the live to a gerund. Living in a household can be very difficult for students. Yes, it can. And I'm just going to put a couple more example sentences. I see more people have written, but we only have time for a few of these examples before we have to move on. If I don't get to some of your sentences or your definitions, it doesn't mean they aren't good. It just means I am strapped for time. I am strapped for time. I do all my household accounts on a computer. Good. And that thing I just said is an idiom, so I'll put it down in the vocabulary. Strapped for time. Just means limited time. I have limited time. I am strapped for time. So I see there's a lot of good examples. If I don't get to your examples, it doesn't mean they're not good. It just means I am strapped for time. I'm moving on to the next thing because I do want to get to the reading. Okay, like last time when you brainstormed about marriage, how about can you just give me some brainstorming about household? What ideas, what words or short phrases come to mind when you think household? And I know some of you have come up with some already. For example, you could say social unit. But don't think of like the meaning of household. What are some ideas? What are some concepts that come to mind when you think of household? Hello, Gobindo. Welcome, welcome. We are brainstorming about the word household. I see expenses. Yes, expenses. So I guess when I say brainstorm here, think of things that are related to the word or related to the idea of household. Oh. Dahal, you can't see the screen, it's just white. Is anybody else having that problem? How does the background look? Can you see the backgrounds? Can you see the background there? Let me know if there's a problem. Do you need to see, blow it up? Do I need to blow it up, make it bigger? Good, here's some more words coming in. Paternal, maternal. Okay. What else? A huge family. Yeah, sometimes households can be very, very large. Responsibility. Of course, if you have a household, you're responsible for chores, for expenses, maybe for children, maybe for a husband or wife. So there's that word chores, which are small jobs, of course. Structures, yeah. You have to have the physical structure of the house itself. Al-Walid, if I visit Canada, I will go to a household. Maybe you will live in a household. Oftentimes we call that homestays. If you live in someone else's household, if you are renting or staying in somebody else's household, of course we call that homestay. Homestay. Relationship, yeah. In every household, the people have some sort of relationship inside that household. For you men out there, it will mean fatherhood. Maybe your first household will be because you have your own family. You have started a family. And of course, for women, it would be motherhood. Fatherhood and motherhood. Group of people. That's good. Okay. Cooperation. Yeah, just let me know if it's difficult to ever see anything in the background. I can always blow it up. I can always zoom in and make it bigger. Immediate family. Good, and of course immediate family is mother, father, children. And the opposite of that, of course, would be extended family, which includes your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your grandparents. So we have immediate families and extended family. A complete family. Collaboration. Yes, you have to work well with the people you live with in your household, of course. Appliances. Yeah, what's a house without appliances inside? It's hard to live without a refrigerator. Okay, I know some more ideas will come in, but I'm going to move to the next. Okay, here are our vocabulary words again. Despite, catastrophic, dominate, headed, individualistic, households, wedlock, indicated, sponsored, emphasis. And I know you need to see the screen big. I'm just going to make this a tad smaller, though. Hopefully you can still see. For those of you who are using your phones and other devices, can you try just to do maybe if I can bring it down just a hair. There we go. Can you do A through F? And for those of you who can access all the class notes, go ahead and try all of them. So I'm going to pop out for a second while you work on these sentences. I will be right back. I'm going to play the music, the Monkeys Spinning Monkeys music. Yes, that's the name of the tune. While you work on this, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Go ahead and fill in these sentences with the correct vocabulary word. Hello, I'm back. I'm back to talk about some answers. I see somebody needs the class notes, so I'm going to run down the whole thing, grab the class notes so I can share that. So for those of you just joining, there are the class notes. Go ahead and open that link if you're on your computer, and you can follow along. Okay, let's talk about the answers here. And I saw many of you have the correct answers. Even if you don't have the correct answer, it's okay, especially if you're using this vocabulary for the first time. Sometimes it looks like a word makes sense, and it does. It's just not the word that they're looking for. So even if you get it wrong, your guesses still might be good. But this is the answers I think they were looking for. A, traditional marriage isn't the preferred living choice in most households. In most households. That's crazy to think about, right? Traditional marriage is not the preferred living choice in most households. Means traditional marriage is the minority in households. At least I think there's probably talking about North America, mostly America and Canada. Crazy to think about. B, data released in August indicates that more than half of American family households weren't married. It shows the data, and data is a collection of information. Data shows or indicates that more than half of American family households weren't married, were not married. Single women, and I saw the answer sponsored, which kind of makes sense. They supported more than 14 million households. Actually, they're looking for headed. Single women headed more than 14 million households. The women were the leaders because single, unmarried, they have their own household. And they might have a child or they might not have a child, but they're unmarried and they're the leader in their household. Let's look at D. Non-family households refers to gay or heterosexual couples living together out of wedlock. They are not in wedlock. How are we doing so? Oh, okay. So here, there was a question on B. Data released in August. Should it be indicates or indicated? And that's good, because if we say August, which refers to a past month, you would think indicated, right? Past. However, if this data is still good, if the information is still good and we can use it today, we can use the present simple. We can use indicates. So I would say both are correct. If we can still use the information, present simple is good. We would use indicated if we are emphasizing that this data was released in August. We are emphasizing that past time. Okay, let's continue. The marriage shift could mark many changes from family law to national politics with its emphasis on family values. So not catastrophic, because catastrophic is an adjective, and here we have a possessive. Its. Remember, its means belonging to it. So because we have that possessive, afterwards we need a noun. It's going to have to be a noun, and the noun here is emphasis. We have a question about my age. I think we had a question about that last time. I'm glad you're interested in me personally. I am 42 years old. Next month I will be 43 years old. I am old. I think by many of your standards, I am much older. However, I still feel young. I still feel young at heart. And your enthusiasm, your energy to learn language certainly increases my enthusiasm and energy. Makes me feel young again, makes me remember what it's like to be a student, which is always fun. Funnest time of my life is when I was a student in university. So I'm hoping some of you are having that same experience with learning. It's hard, it's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. Okay, let's continue. Oh, happy birthday. Thanks. I will still be here next month. Maybe you can wish me a happy birthday when we get closer to that date. I'll let you know when we get close. So some of you, I'm going to guess a lot of you are just in your 20s, just in your 20s. So maybe you are experiencing your first experience with household, with your own personal household, or maybe you're thinking about it now because you're thinking about the time when you finish college or university, when you start to work. Maybe that's kind of the period in life you're at now, when you start to think maybe about having your first household. Okay. Oh yeah, you guys are young. You're in your you're in your 20s. You guys are very, very, very young. You have a lot of life ahead of you. I think you have your best years ahead of you. Life only gets better as you age. All right, let's concentrate on this reading, on this vocabulary. You got me sidetracked. You got me sidetracked. I'll add that to the vocabulary. Sidetracked is focusing on something besides the real matter. Here we should be talking about vocabulary and reading, and you got me sidetracked talking about age and aging and households. Well, households is related, and university and studying and being a student. So I'm going to refocus here. Holy cow, some of you are very, very young. You're still in your teens, which is good because that's a good age to learn. Your brain can still hold a ton of information, a lot of information. Okay. F, it indicates the failed efforts of President Bush despite their push for traditional marriage and families. So this, I believe they're referring to President Bush, the second President Bush, the one before Obama. So despite their push, that would be like his White House, his aides, his cabinet, his presidency, their push for traditional marriage and families. Let's look at G. The tax breaks, special legislation, and legislation means laws, the making of laws. The tax breaks, special legislation, and church-sponsored campaigns are bearing little fruit. Okay. This one, bearing little fruit, and I'll put in the vocabulary, I'll just put bear fruit, because it can be a lot of fruit, it can be a little fruit. Just means the results. If something bears fruit, like a tree actually bears fruit, means what are the results? And here, bearing little fruit, of course, means little results, not big results. Unmarried couples living together may dominate American life for years to come. Unmarried couples may dominate American life for years to come. Unmarried couples, couples out of wedlock. A household where the people are not married may dominate American life for years to come. We have a question about, yes, okay. It indicates failed efforts of President Bush despite, okay, should we use a comma here? I actually would not. I would not use a comma there. With despite, I don't believe despite creates a subordinating clause, so I would not use a comma. And that might be a mistake, actually, despite their push for traditional marriage and families. Stylistically, I suppose you could put a comma, and this comma comes into play if you were a journalist, a newspaper writer, for example. Sometimes people who write newspapers, journalists, will put commas normally where you would not put a comma in order to break up information for the eyes, because newspapers are usually very small print that come in columns, and those commas kind of help visually to understand what the journalist is writing. And because what we're going to read is an article from the news, I would say that's why they use the comma. If you were to write this sentence in school, no comma. Despite does not start a subordinating clause, so you need that comma. So to make a short answer long, we're going to assume that this comma is because this is from a newspaper article. And a couple of questions, but I'm going to finish this and I'll get to your questions. America will move towards a much more, what were your answers for I? A much more individualistic society. Yeah, a society of individuals. Maybe that means people living on their own in a household. Is the change blank or just evolutionary? Is it, what haven't we used yet? Is it, catastrophic? Is this damaging to society, or is it just an evolutionary step in society? Is it just the way society is changing, or could this lead to some damages of society? Right now, I don't think we know. We'll have to see in the future how it turns out. That's right, Daniel. To make a short answer long, I could have just said a journalist would use a comma, a non-journalist would not use the comma. That would be the short answer. Does it sound wrong? So I think maybe what some of you may be thinking is, if I were to reverse this, despite their push for traditional marriage and families, comma, it indicates the failed efforts of President Bush. Despite their push for traditional marriage and families, it indicates the failed efforts of President Bush. Here we do need the comma because we started with despite. If you start your sentence with despite or in spite of, or you wrote a different sentence and used although, though, even though, if you start your sentence like that, you do need the comma in the middle. The comma before the main clause. But here, if you start with the main clause, you don't need the comma. If you're writing for the paper, put the comma. Okay. Let's see. And there's a question, why do I teach for free? Why are these classes offered for free? Well, because there's an audience for it, to tell you the truth. You guys come and you watch these videos and it creates demand, and we want you to still come and watch these videos. There is a subscription service, and you do get more with the subscription service. So if you subscribe to these classes, you will get homework, additional homework to do. That homework will be graded by a teacher. You will get to talk. If you have a headset and a microphone, you will get to talk to your teacher sometimes. What else? You get quizzes, tests, and you get a certificate. So there is a subscription version of these classes. But as long as people come and watch, we will offer these classes. And it's great that you are coming and watching and participating and asking questions. And that's what makes these classes possible. You do. I love teaching you guys. You guys are so enthusiastic about learning. I love it. I love it. Okay. Actually, we're running out of time, so I'm going to skip the true and false. Go back when we're done with this, when we're done with the reading, go back and you yourself can figure out if these statements are true or false afterwards. Okay, let's get to the article. I'm going to read the first paragraph. I'll make it a little bigger so it's a little easier to see. Marriage isn't dead, but data released in August indicated that more than half of American family households weren't married. That figure, 56.8 million, or 50.2% of the total, is a sharp drop from 6 years ago. In 2000, married couples made up 52% of the 105.5 million households. Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask you, can you give me a short word or phrase that could summarize this first paragraph? Just this first paragraph, not the whole article. What is this first paragraph talking about? What, very simplistically, very shortly, very succinctly, can you give me a summary of just this short first paragraph? And I'll wait for some of your answers. Maybe I'll make a little box to put in there. Where's my format tools? Insert. What am I looking for? I need, there it is. I need table. And we'll just make a small little table there. And I'll put your answers in there. That first small paragraph. What is that? What is this about? What's a good summary? Okay, good. Good. And unfortunately, we're running out of time, so I'm just going to put the first couple of answers in here, and then we have to move on. We had such a good discussion about the vocabulary before that we have run out of time, but that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so decline in the family households in America, and I would add to that in the traditional family households in America, the percentage of married couples. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Here's paragraph 2. Single women headed more than 14 million households, and another 5 million by single men. Most interesting or alarming, depending on your point of view, were the large number of non-family households. This term mostly refers to gay or heterosexual couples living together out of formal wedlock. Okay, what is this one about? What is this one about? Just that second paragraph, what would you say? And I'll put the first couple of answers in there. I know we're moving fast, but that's because we're running out of time. And I guess it would hold true. True for this. Both these first two paragraphs do give us statistics. They give us numbers, some numbers. How about this second one? What would you say? What would be a good short summary for that second one? And I'll wait for the answers as you look at this and think about your answers. I can make it a little bigger again, if that helps. What do you think? Just that second one. That second one. Yes, of course, a single women head many households. But it's not just about single women, is it? Who else is included? What other groups? We can probably lump these groups as non-traditional, again, non-traditional heads of households. And we use this as a verb, headed, meaning led. And here I used it as a noun, heads, meaning leaders. Good. We are also talking about this idea of formal wedlock disappearing in America. Formal wedlock is disappearing. That's good. Yes, people living together without wedlock. Okay, those are good answers. Even if you have more answers, they will appear in the chat, but we got to move on to the next This will be paragraph 3. And yes, to answer your question, and I'll probably say your name wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, Indranal, or can I just call you Bar? Yes, I will be teaching these classes Monday and Wednesday mornings for the rest of the year, until December, until the month of December. Maybe couples prefer not to wedlock, and we can't use wedlock as a verb because it's so not to live in wedlock. It's actually an adjective or a noun. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Paragraph 3. The shift could mark drastic changes in every part of American life, from family law to national politics, with its emphasis on family values. In the short term, however, it indicates the failed efforts of President Bush and his allies, despite their push for traditional marriage and families. The tax breaks, special legislation, and church-sponsored campaigns are bearing little fruit. How about this one? What would you say, in a short summary, what would you say this third paragraph is about? And I'll wait for your answers here. Go ahead and look over that paragraph one more time. What would you say this third one? Tradition. Yes, we're talking about the other side. So we talked about non-traditional, and here we're talking about traditional marriage supports, sponsorship for traditional marriage, political support for traditional marriage. Maybe reasons for the increasing percentage of households. Yeah, maybe some of the change has come as a reaction against a political push for traditional households. Of course, in America, because our idea of ourselves is so individualistic, sometimes when our leaders suggest or support to do something, we actually want to do the opposite. Sometimes Americans are so individualistic, we go against our own leadership. We're very strange that way. Kind of a strange psychological and philosophical way to live. We sometimes react against suggestions on how we should live. Yep, we're also talking about here, of course, we're talking about the decline of traditional marriage, government failure. Yes, this is a failure of government policy. Family values have changed. Family values have changed quite a bit in America recently. In this new millennium, our family values have changed quite a bit. Yes, of course, we're talking about the government and the church and their efforts to support traditional families. And yes, this is a fact that today's marriage is almost legal in any paired gender. In America, of course, gay marriage has recently been legalized. So that means actually the marriage rate is going up. It's not considered a traditional family, but it has increased the rate of marriages. There are now more people, since this article is written, there are more people in wedlock, even though it's still a non-traditional family. Okay, let's look at the next paragraph. How about the next two? I think that ends it. Yep, we'll have a paragraph and then a quote. Douglas Beshevoor, a sociologist with the American Enterprise Institute, suggested that short-term relationships and unmarried couples living together would dominate American life for years to come. As a result, People will find themselves more alone than ever before. Both parents will be working, so there will be fewer siblings, cousins, aunts, and uncles. America will move towards a much more individualistic society. Change is in the air, he said. The only question is whether it is catastrophic or just evolutionary. Okay, one last time I'll ask you, what is this paragraph, end quote, what is it about? What are some ideas there? Let me grab a table real quick and put it here. So what is this last part? What would you say it's about? What's a good summary for this last paragraph and this last quote? And we didn't talk about this word either, siblings. So I'll leave that up to you. What does siblings mean? What the heck is a sibling? Unmarried couples speared in the USA, maybe appearing in the USA? What do you mean by a good impact? Yeah, we're finally getting to the impact. What will be the impact now that American life has changed? Will it be catastrophic or will it be evolutionary? Is it just a change? More people are going to live by themselves. Perhaps more people will live. Actually, I think I've seen an increase in communal living. Communal living is where you live with non-family members, like friends, but you live as a family in the same household. You share expenses, you share food, you share chores. It's called communal living. And sometimes it also includes gardening and farming and the owning of animals, livestock. At least in my city here in Spokane, Washington, it's illegal to own chickens, I think pigs and goats. I know some households even have donkeys in their backyards. There are certain locations in our city, if you have a big enough area, you can have all sorts of animals, livestock. And we would call this communal living. Oh, I grabbed too much there. And yes, you're correct. I see the definition for siblings come in. Siblings simply means your brothers and your sisters, collectively, all your brothers and sisters. So we have a lot of good explanation. Living individualistic may not increase population in American households. Good summaries. Yes, the evolution of society. And that's a good question. Is sibling an unusual word in America? Kind of. I mean, we don't have a lot of opportunities to use siblings. If I was talking to my friends, I wouldn't say, "Oh, my siblings came home for Thanksgiving." I would probably say my brothers and sisters. However, if I were to write a paper, for school, I would probably say siblings. Okay. I know there's some questions left unanswered, like the difference between gerunds and present participle. Can I make a video about it? We will get to more grammar in the future. We will return to grammar lessons. So yes, we will get to that eventually. And so this is basically all the time we have now. I do have to go. There are questions, there are understanding questions at the end. If you, and I'll share it one more time, if you use these class notes, and if you're on your phone, try to get a copy of this link so you can use the class notes. I will leave this for you to do by yourself, individualistically, at home, to answer these understanding questions. Great summaries again, great understanding of these articles. And of course, we always read for understanding, the most important part. We have to make sure we're understanding as we read. And your summaries show me that you are understanding. You're doing very, very good. That link I shared with you is for these class notes, which is, here I got to point this way, which is what appears behind me on the screen while I teach. I'm going to go to the last screen, my farewell screen. So I have to bid you goodbye. There's a lot of questions I didn't get to answer. Hopefully in a future lesson I will get to answer. I'm here every Monday and Wednesday morning. Nicole is here every Tuesday and Thursday morning. Josh is in the afternoons. And then you can find Sean and Mark at different times. I love all of you too. I love teaching you. I love your enthusiasm. I hope you can attend as many of these classes as possible. Always bring your questions, your comments. I love also that you guys chat with each other. That chat room isn't just to write me sentences or ask me questions. You can talk with each other, and I know a lot of you do. So use other people who are learning English as a resource. They are also a great resource. And learning is always collaborative, meaning learning is always done in a group. It's always done best in a group. I know sometimes you have to be alone when you study or when you write. When you have to write a paper, you need that time to focus. However, collaboration is a great way to learn, and you are always your best collaborators. Okay, I will be back on Monday. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I will do the same, and I look forward to talking to you soon. But for now, I have to say bye-bye. So bye-bye, everybody. Happy studying. Good job. You're all awesome. And I mean that. I mean that very, very much. Okay, bye-bye. I'll see you soon.